Bob, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
I've got you clear.
All right, thank you.
Clear. Thank you.
Somebody said, I think it was 2013, whoever the chairman of the hospital board, he's blaming all the problems on him. I don't know who that was.
Chairman,
When they gave it to.
was that Clark? It's Clark.
Was it?
Yeah.
Of the hospital board?
Yeah.
Oh.
I thought at the time they needed to explore, but it was such a fast thing they couldn't. Affiliating with CK Harris.
Well, this guy was saying we should have gone with Duke.
Yeah, Duke Life Point, CK Harris, but
I just thought we'd give the school a flag if we had one on the shelf.
we don't.
Sir?
We don't.
We don't? Okay.
I don't think so. I haven't
I'll
checked.
buy him one for Christmas. Where do you go?
Chamber of Commerce can tell you. Are we ready?
And Bob's ready to talk about? I'm just gonna ask him if he has any suggestions.
Can you hear us, Bob? Thank you.
Yes,
Good to see you.
good to see all of you.
Where did Brian here? How you doing? Let me call to order this workshop meeting of the Highlands Board of Commissioners for November the 16th. The first thing that would be on the agenda would be to review the proposed agenda. Do we have any changes to that? Mr. Ward.
Commissioner Hayne would like to talk about dead trees in the right of way.
Okay.
Or
Property that.
we're leaning towards the right of way. Yes, sir. Right. Yes, sir, please.
Okay. I'd like to put that at the top of the, when we do construction, let's put it in between item 1 and 2.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Any other changes? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to talk about our billing policy for water breakage.
Okay.
Not very definitive.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay. We'll do that. Any others? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank you. We have an agenda. Our other item would be the approval of the October 19th regular workshop meeting minutes. Do we have any changes to that? In a second. Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank you very much. Now, the next thing will be discussion items, and I want to say that, and this is my idea, and if it doesn't work, we'll change it. But instead of having a podium, I just thought it'd be a good idea to have a table, because sometimes we have multiple presenters and they can come up and sit down if they have papers and everything and talk to the board, from the table.
More
So,
like a Senate hearing. Huh?
What's that?
More like a Senate hearing.
Yeah, kind of like that. You probably need a green tablecloth skirt. Okay, but the first item would be the commercial color chart, and Michael Mathis, who made that presentation at the last workshop, will come back with more information.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'll make this quick. I'm still trying to get in touch with Pantone. I've sent them a few different emails to try to get the color splotches to match our Benjamin Moore colors that the planning board had picked out. I don't have anything else to add besides that, except I did bring these copies for anybody to look at that would like to. This one right here is the original. These are the proposed ones. And of course, y'all have that in your agenda packet. I'd done a Word document for both each. So that's all I have on that. And once I get in touch with Pantone and get these Pantone colors, I'll bring it back to the board.
What is so like looking at what's in your hand there, it looks like we've gone from a lot of colors to like just like a handful of colors. Is that correct?
Yeah, there are some similar to what we already have. So they did take some away, but really the biggest change you're going to see is you've got your base colors right here.
Sure.
And then you've got your accent colors, which are a little more vibrant.
Okay.
And then it's just how the proposed ordinance would word that out to where you couldn't maybe choose your building and paint like a blue and a red, something like two accent colors.
Yeah.
They've done it to where you could do like a base and an accent color or something like that. So that's the real big change with the proposal from the planning board. But I'll have these, I can just leave them on this table and they will be in my office if anybody wants to stop by and check them out. And of course, you've got them in a Word document. You can look at that.
Okay.
That's all I've got as of right now. I'll bring back the Pantone swatches when I get them.
Don't be in a rush. There might be more questions.
Yeah.
Buzz, I know you were advocating for the Pantone and they're working on it.
Yeah, as long as we're working on it, I'm good.
The what was that, Buzz?
Pantone color. Instead of colors like we've got in the Word document that Michael references, which may or may not be the same mix or the same name next year.
Yeah.
These are just colors that Benjamin Moore colors, and Benjamin Moore could go out of business next week.
Yeah.
So we just need something consistent.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I took. That's how I took that. It's not just, I guess as long as you're close, or does it have to be that specific color?
As the way it reads right now is the original ordinance, and I think it's the same way in the proposal. It need not meet a specific color, but meet that.
Yeah.
Fall within their parameters.
And the code enforcement people have to make kind of judgments on how close it meets it, right?
There is a judgment call on that as of right now for the staff, but we have to discuss maybe making people come and submit to the planning board and get more eyes on it. I don't know yet. That's something that they'll have to discuss and work out.
Okay.
I think once we have a Pantone reference, you'll also be able to see that the variations in color and Pantone numbers is minuscule. And I think we could probably define a range of numbers, which will give some flexibility rather than having code enforcement have to make a personal judgment, and then it's
because
their problem and not ours.
as of right now, I mean, you're looking, somebody brings in one of these and then you're sitting here trying to compare that splotch based on this wheel to see if it meets. So I mean, that's not a bad idea.
Exactly.
Yeah, we tried that back. I think when we first did this back in the late '90s, early 2000s. We tried to specify the range and Pantone stuff, it just didn't get approved at the time and stuff, and they just kind of had the whole bill out there, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is good.
It's a word I never
step
heard.
where we need
Yeah,
to
well,
go.
I think we got less targets to shoot at.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you, Michael.
you,
And
Mayor.
our next item, which we inserted into the agenda, and let me just say to Commissioner Hayne, I know you'd asked that to be put in, and to be quite frank, I forgot.
That's
But-
okay.
But it's in there, concerning the issue of dead trees on near the right of way and on private property. Would you like to kind of share the concept?
Well, yes, sir. You and I looked at some on an embankment that, looked like it could easily slide into the road right away. And I know a dead tree leaning towards a town road. And I know a lot of dead hemlocks on private property that could easily fall on a town road. And I asked Josh to ask Bob if he had any recommendations about possibly putting the property owner on notice. I'm not asking the town to do anything, just to make the property owner aware that that's a serious problem.
Okay. Bob?
Yes, Mayor. So certainly I have no problem if the board decides to do this. Let me talk a little bit about the liability issues. The question of whether or not the owner of the property on which the tree, a dead tree or any tree is on, is liable if it falls and hurts somebody or damages somebody else's property is a question of negligence. And our courts have essentially said that you're not a guarantor that a tree won't fall, right? There's act of God. Good, healthy trees sometimes get taken down in a storm, and you're not strictly liable if that happens. However, if you had knowledge that the tree was dead, compromised, foreseeable that it would fall, that's the situation where there is potential liability. And I think, and ultimately that's a question for a jury, right? I mean, each situation will stand on its own. The facts will be different. You're going to have expert testimony as to the health or condition of the tree. And you may have evidence as to whether or not the property owner was aware or not. So imagine an absentee landowner who has not been to their property in 5 years, and a tree falls. They're not negligent if they didn't have knowledge or should have had knowledge. So in thinking about Commissioner Haynes' proposal, it may very well increase the likelihood of liability if the town has alerted a property owner that, hey, you need to look at this. There's a potential problem here. And that creates some evidence of the notice issue. And then whether or not they were in fact negligent by not taking care of it would be a question in a trial for a jury. So I see some, if what you're trying to do is encourage property owners to remove dead trees, to eliminate the hazard, I see a notice as maybe furthering that objective. And I don't have any problem. I don't see any liability concerns for the town in giving people notice. So I'll happy to answer any questions.
I do have one, Bob. If we adopted that as policy and started giving out notices, if we fail to notice a dead tree and didn't notify the homeowners, could that splash back on us as being negligent in our policy that we were planning on implementing?
Mayor, that's an excellent question. I don't think you have an affirmative duty right now to go out and notify property owners. It's like any inspection or regulatory regime. If you don't have an obligation to do it, there's no potential liability. I think it's a valid question, and I do think it's potential. There is a potential that if somebody can show that the town, in trying to identify trees that were at risk, was itself negligent. There is some minor increased potential of liability. You don't have, I don't think you have an obligation to, if you do take on this program, I don't think you have an obligation to identify every single potentially dangerous tree anywhere within the town limits.
Yeah.
But I think you need to do some kind of reasonable care to periodically, you're looking for things that might fall into the street, it sounds like. I think there needs to be some kind of inspection program or expectation set up to periodically look for them. That would minimize the chance of liability, although I think that the chance of liability in a town is pretty remote. Theoretically, it's possible.
Okay. So my other question would be that if we adopted a policy, we'd have to carefully word it as to what's the scope and what our intent is, correct?
If you do want to pursue this, I would recommend giving the manager and I and other staff a time to really think through, maybe do a little bit of research and see if we can find models elsewhere in the state or the country. Just dig a little bit deeper. And then, yes, Mayor, I agree. We should be thoughtful in developing and wording a policy if you decide to pursue this.
Okay. What do y'all think?
Commissioner, I guess I'm kind of at a semi-loss as to what's the point? I mean, if the tree is endangering a power line or some structure of the town that it's going to cost us to fix, I can somewhat see your point, but
We're doing that
other than
anyway.
that, tell me what you're after.
Well, I know our mayor walks or runs underneath a tree that's leaning towards a road right away. And I have knowledge of it. And I've asked the property owner twice to do something about it. And I just feel that we have an obligation, if we're aware of a tree leaning towards a road that our mayor or anybody else walks or runs under, or a car drives by, it just seems like we want to protect the health, safety, and welfare. It just seems like we have an obligation to ask that property owner, hey, looks like this is the problem. We're worried it's going to fall, worried it's going to hurt somebody. Actually experience the tree falling on a car and killing someone. I certainly hope that never happens, but I think we've got knowledge that this is a problem. And I think we ought to address it.
So you're going beyond just notifying, you're talking about requiring it?
No, I think if what Bob said, I think if we just write the property owner and say, it appears that this tree is going to fall and could hurt someone, we'd appreciate you doing something about it. Then that would just put them on notice that looks like we got a serious problem. If we don't do it and somebody gets hurt, and we all knew about it, then that's bad too, you know?
Canty's in the tree pit. He's here tonight. Do you have any ideas about this? Oh, you can come up. Come on up.
I didn't know this is what we
No,
discussed.
I just saw you and I said, well, you do deal with trees
Thank you.
removal all the time. So
And I assess risk of trees and different components that go into that risk assessment. And I think you do open up a can of worms if you start looking at every tree. Now, if there's an individual tree, it's a known issue. I think that's a good place to start. I think notifying the homeowner, and perhaps they'll act in good faith. And hopefully if they act in good faith, another homeowner will act in good faith. Right. I guess in a way I do caution you as a town, because if you start doing that, and then I come to you and say, the tree at the corner of the Highlands Inn in the middle of Main Street seems a little dangerous to me.
Mhm.
Then we start talking about taking out signature trees in the middle of town. And that may not be a bad thing. And I think we should open that discussion, because that could still be a hazardous tree, even though it's a special tree and a signature tree. So I think what the gentleman here is saying about taking some time, looking at what other towns and municipalities are doing, and making an educated way forward on that is important, because once you start talking about liability with trees and who's at risk and why and how, you can't open yourself up to having to do some tree removal that you may or not expecting to do.
That's a good point. I mean, you can't be selective in which hazardous trees we want to take down, basically.
And where do you draw the line? Because I may see a tree that's not leaning over an embankment or not over the mayor as he's running by, but it's just equally, if not more, hazardous, and nobody noticed it, but I may find a defect in it or something to that effect. But I think, again, maybe a policy of notifying homeowners without requiring them to do it, hoping that they will do some of that on their own, would be a good step forward. I think it's a bigger discussion that comes into play when you talk about inventorying your trees in town. I think Richard Betts made a great inventory of the town's trees at one point a while ago. We should do that again. We should take a look at special trees, historic trees, dangerous trees, new trees that need attention.
Grand trees,
I'm sorry.
grand trees,
Yeah.
yeah, big trees, yeah.
So a lot of levels to it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Yes, the question is, should we ask our town manager and maybe our attorney and Mr. Mathis to pursue and look at what other towns have done and report back to us?
Well, in the case of, one quick question though, in the case of what Commissioner Haynes saying, do we have to have an all-out policy, or in this case, do we just notice that there's a tree that's in danger of falling, and then we, like, I guess what I'm saying is, we got the tree is obviously in danger of falling. We could send that homeowner a letter stating that, but that doesn't mean we got to go out looking at other trees. We don't have to like scalp it. It's just, if one comes up where you notice it, then, I mean, does it have to be a full-out program where we're now Leah, you know, who has enough to do, is now scouting for trees too?
Most of our the things she does are complaint driven, so that's another good point.
And another good resource, not to put more work on them, but our electrical trim crew might sometimes come across trees and.
Well, and then they're taking, as far as like what Buzz was saying with the power lines and town structures, I mean, they're already taking those down.
Right.
I think, is there a difference between an ordinance and a policy? I mean, because policy can be something that doesn't necessarily bind anybody. Right?
Yeah, changeable on a moment's notice.
Right.
I wouldn't see this becoming an ordinance, but
No,
Because if it's
And
not
the
an ordinance, I don't see a code enforcement. It's a policy.
That's true. Got no backbone to enforce.
Just make them aware.
that's all I'm
And
asking.
Mr. Mayor, you could always just make a
Run on the other
diversion
side of the
around
road.
this, so Commissioner Hine won't worry so much about you.
I know.
He can't get
Well,
around
I'm-
this one.
I'm pretty fast. But, well, maybe that's the thing, that we should just, maybe have our staff come up with a policy that we can look at,
That'd be great.
okay?
Bob, do you feel, what is your opinion between an ordinance and a policy?
Well, an ordinance, as you all know, is a law that generally regulates private activity. If all that we work toward is a process where the town gives notice, I don't think that would warrant, or we should put it in an ordinance. If you're going to try to mandate, if you want to go as far as to mandate the removal of trees that you've identified, that's a different story. That would require an ordinance. But that's a whole another level of analysis, I believe.
Okay.
A policy could be if staff sees a tree on private property, it's endangering public right of way, that they could be sent a letter.
Yeah. So a couple thoughts that as I listen to the discussion that are coming to me, I'm aware of some cases that I would want to go back and review involving when a municipality can be liable for negligence for failure to maintain, for example, stop signs, or to ensure that, what's the phrase, sight triangles at intersections are preserved so that you can see the sign, or you can see an oncoming vehicle or a vehicle coming from the crossroad without being blocked. And I'm aware of some case law. I want to go back and re-review it. It's been a while. That sets a standard for when the municipality can be liable for that. But so again, I would say that if you want us to pursue this, give Josh and I some time to do a little bit of research, and we can come back with some options for you.
Okay. Why don't we won't do that?
More information is never wrong.
Sure. Thank you, Bob.
You
That's
know-
what we'll do. Go
You
ahead.
know, that's a good point. I can tell you in South Carolina, we had 48 hours. If we had noticed, it didn't fix something, but that's something, Josh, you ought to help Josh with too, how much notice they've got to have before they have to do something. Thank you.
All right. Next thing.
What constitutes notice? What constitutes notice?
Well, if they called us and told us there was sewer backing up in a manhole, I mean, we had notice, there's no question about it. We'd write a work order, we'd send somebody out, we'd make it.
Yeah, and if
Fixed.
somebody walks into the lobby and says, I've noticed that it's really hard to see at this intersection, is that notice?
That's a good question for your town attorney.
Mhm.
Because particularly if you put a time frame on it.
Well, I think that's what he's going to research. What is the law about giving notice to the town and how many days or hours does the town have to
So
respond?
they have to fill out a form so
Well,
it's an official notice.
So that's a really a good legal question for Bob, you know.
All right. We're right through, halfway through the workshop. Let me move on to the next item, which is the weekend construction work regulations. I've been asking for a review of this. I know the land use committee a while back looked at this issue. I'm just seeking clarification. And yes, I am concerned about construction noise on weekends. I do view this town in the light of it is in some part a tourist community, and it is a retreat community also, where people might have a home here and they come up from another city where they're always exposed to traffic noise and construction noise, and they come up here on the weekend. And I think we need to curtail those kind of activities during those weekend periods. And we actually have an ordinance on the book that Michael Mathis will come up and kind of give us an overview of where he sees the issue and what we might want to address.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Article 2 of the Code of Ordinances, it's Section 8, Article 2, noise ordinance is what regulates this subject right here. Two things you want to look at: construction activity under definitions under 813 means erection, repair, assembly, alteration, landscaping, or demolition of any building or building site. And working hours in relation to construction activity means between Monday through Friday from 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. I reference those because if you go to Section 816 under exemptions, the following activities are exempt from the application of this article. Number 10 says non-commercial lawnmowers and agricultural equipment operated in working hours. So non-commercial lawnmowers, agricultural equipment, I'm assuming leaf blowers. I mean, I don't know how far agricultural equipment would stretch on the different types of equipment, but it definitely the code as it reads right now references non-commercial lawnmowers and agricultural equipment operated in working hours. It exempts it from this ordinance, but as I addressed earlier, working hours are Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. I wanted the board to look at this and get their opinions on it, but as I read it right now, it seems to me that it is illegal to operate a lawnmower or any other agricultural equipment, non-commercial or commercial, during the weekends.
And let me stop you here, because to me, this is, I know some people think, oh, this mayor is always trying to keep people from doing things. I am very sensitive, and I do not want this ordinance to apply to a homeowner that on Saturday afternoon wants to go cut his grass, or even use a leaf blower or a weed eater or whatever. If it's just the homeowner or his family members and they're cleaning up their yard, I have no problem with that. So I would say let's scratch that working hours provision and say for non-commercial, people can operate equipment when they're tending to their home. I'm just concerned about the landscape trucks that come in, and all of a sudden on Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, you've got 3 leaf blowers and all this equipment going in a neighborhood, and everybody's waking up, which I've done. Hey, what's happening here? So.
And the last thing I will add is I'd noticed this about 30 minutes before we come here to this meeting. So I would love for everybody to look at that, see if you agree with that interpretation of it. Of course, our attorney as well, which I can send. I did not send any of this to him. This was actually printed out last minute. It's not in the agenda, so I can send it to him as well. Highlight the sections and see if he agrees as written.
Let me play devil's advocate here.
You always do, Amy. So go ahead.
Or a counterpoint,
Okay.
Okay. I I'm old. I don't get out and leaf blow anymore. I don't leaf blow off my roof anymore. I don't actually like leaf blowers, but because I used to sweep my roof, but I don't do that anymore. And I need somebody to do it because I'm afraid that in this drought condition, my house is going to burn down.
Okay.
Right.
And the only time they have to do it, because everybody else is doing the exact same thing, is on a Saturday.
You could use that logic. Well, construction
And okay,
operation can be done too.
exactly. It's rained all week. I'm trying to get my house dried in, trying to get my roof repaired. And the only time they can come do it, it's hard enough to find somebody who come do it anyway, is on a Saturday. These are not things that are going to be constant every time they come up on the weekend. These are things that are going to be a temporary situation. Okay. And I need my crew to stay working. I need to make money so that they can feed their kids. And I need to have and the homeowner sure as heck wants their house built and their roof repaired. So there's two sides to this.
Well,
It's not
okay,
just, okay, I'm coming up from Atlanta and I don't like traffic noise, but I live in Atlanta, so I want to come up here and I don't want to have any noise.
Well, let me be the devil's advocate. If it's so critical
How
to
many
feed
devils-
everybody and
How many
keep them
devils we
working,
got in this?
I'm
mix?
a devil. Why don't we just do it 24/7?
Do what now?
The work, for example, use your
I don't say
analogy. Some contractors say, well, gosh, I can put out lights and my crew can keep working on your house until 8:30 tonight.
No, I'm not saying that you have to do it in dark or any of the things like that, but there are things that, yeah, I think leaf blowers are the number one thing that is annoying. I mean, because and frankly, the most polluting instrument out there, because they're all two-stroke engines.
Unless they're electric.
Yeah, unless they're electric, and Josh has told me they don't have enough power, so you can't do them with they're electric, but they're horrible polluting pieces of equipment because they're two-stroke engines. So what I'm saying is there's two sides to this story. Yeah, I come up here from Atlanta, but I built my house. Now I want to be here and not have anybody build their house.
No, you can do it during the business.
And in Highlands, sometimes the only 2 dry days of the year are Friday and Saturday of the week.
Saturday and Sunday.
Or Saturday and Sunday.
Just keep
That's what I'm
going.
saying. I'd say, don't make sure it's a problem that is consistent. I mean, they have to put up with it for 6 months. Is that something that they can't put up with? Is it just an annoyance, or is it something that's going to be all the time? Look at all of the generators that come on early in the morning that are, you're sitting on Sunset and all you hear the whole time. You think we should get rid of those?
No.
And that's every day of the week.
No. But you're
I'm
saying.
just saying,
you're
sometimes
saying,
these things are just things that are annoyances, but we can't make a rule for everything.
But Amy, I think our police department uses really good judgment. When a tree falls on a house and the people are doing the work on Sunday, they're not going to do anything. They're going to let them fix the house. When a tree's leaning towards another house and you're getting it cut down on Saturday, they're not going to say one word. They'll ask you what you're doing. You say, well, you want to let me hit the house or what? They're going to let you go. So they do use good judgment. They really do.
I'm not saying that they don't. I'm saying that it's suddenly we're saying, okay, we've got people that are annoyed and we're government, so we're gonna make a rule. I think, sometimes these things are, and yeah, okay, I'm probably not being politically correct and everybody's gonna be mad at me, but it's one of those things that's like, sometimes it's just life. Put in your headphones.
I would throw out. There should be some periods where people can have the quiet enjoyment of their property.
You know what? I also like to go to bed early, and I don't like people who are next to me that are having parties. Where are you going to draw?
Guess what?
Where are you going to draw the line?
If they're making noise and a disturbance,
they're not making noise for loud, but
then
it's
it's no
still a
problem
hum.
then.
All I'm saying is where are you going to draw the line? Who's going to determine it's a noise, it's a nuisance, it's a noise, it's all those kinds of things. And there are two parties here. There's a person who doesn't want you working, and then there's the party who wants you to work because it's my house. And there's the contractor, and there's the workers.
And then as soon as that person's house is done, then they're going to say, okay, stop the other people from
Exactly.
doing that. But here, we've got it on the noise ordinance and the work rules Now, it's just, what he's pointed out is the,
So I
Preventing
guess my
individuals
question
from
is,
working.
why are you bringing it up? We already have.
I just wanted to clarify it and make sure.
Yeah, and I
where we
don't
are
think
on it.
I don't think he knew that it read that beforehand because I hadn't even caught it. Like I
Oh,
say,
no, not about the lawnmower. Everybody
Oh.
can mow their lawn. I'm just talking about, if we already have it on here that you're not supposed to work. Okay, and it's not that you can't do construction, it's that because it's under the noise ordinance, you
Mhm.
can't do, I don't know, nail guns or.
Commercial.
Yeah, not commercial
Well-
construction, because I could be in there wiring
Hanging,
it up
yeah.
and
And
not
we
make a
have
damn
had
bit of
So,
it.
yeah, but
it's judgment.
but
For
we-
example, if you're building a
But you're
house,
bringing it up because you've had complaints, and I want to know what the complaints are.
mostly things like the leaf blowers and the landscapers going until 5 o'clock at night on a Saturday or on Sunday or whenever during the weekend. But I was going to say, we've always used judgment. For example, if a contractor is at a house and they're doing interior work like painting, where there's no noise or anything, we don't go around and stop them from doing it. But if they've got a backhoe and a lot of equipment, running heavy equipment or things that are generating noise, then it triggers a complaint.
So this is a leaf blower problem.
Well, it's landscaping, and it could not just be leaf blowers, it could be some other equipment. But, the ordinance already says landscaping, commercial landscaping on the weekend. So, am I not right?
I do think this needs to be addressed, because as it reads right now, I know people probably blow leaves and mow up here on the weekends. I'm not up here on the weekends a lot, but I'm sure they do. But my interpretation of this is that's illegal according to this,
And I think that the part
whether it's
that
commercial or
says
not.
the non-commercial during working hours, that working hours should be struck to where someone can do that.
That would, in
But my
opinion,
concern is with the
handle it.
commercial production of landscaping and so forth.
Well, I guess I'm at a loss in how we're determining that private operation of a leaf blower or anything else would be illegal when clearly it's the following activities are exemptions from the application of this article: non-commercial lawnmowers. Stop.
Yeah. But as of right now, if you continue and read it, in working hours is the part that makes me think
If
it's
we
illegal
scratch
because
that.
working hours is defined.
So what are we wanting to extend working hours?
Or
No.
cut that out and then that's totally up to this board, but if you cut it out, then
Non-commercial
non-commercial would be able to operate
Yeah,
on the weekend.
it just clarifies that a
So your
non-commercial.
only concern is working hours.
Yeah, that it
It's
states,
the hours, not the ability.
yeah, that it states working hours in there.
Yeah.
And when you reference working hours, it's only Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. So that's saying, yes, non-commercial lawnmowers and agricultural equipment can operate, but they can only do so in working hours. That's the exemption.
Yeah, but the exemptions are, the following activities are exempted from the
Yeah.
application of the article.
Yeah.
Not specific anything else.
But it's those non-commercial.
Article 2 is the whole thing.
No, I know. And it is under the exemption, but as of right now, the exemption is operated in working hours. If you continue on through it, it's the lawnmowers,
Item 10.
non-commercial lawnmowers and agricultural equipment operated in working hours. That's your exemption. Now, if they're operated beyond working hours, that is not exempt. So if you take working
Okay,
hours.
so you want to be able to run them till dark on July the 19th.
No, but I'm just saying if I don't care what this board chooses, that is up to the direction of this board. I'm just saying, I'm sure people mow and blow
That's
leaves
not right.
non-commercially right now.
This is one of those ones that.
Have we had problems with people
This-
calling in and complaining?
Like I said, I haven't fielded,
9:15 at night in July and saying, damn, I wish my neighbors going to bed.
I haven't fielded one yet on that, but all I'm saying is as this reads right now, you couldn't go home with a non-commercial lawnmower on a Saturday and mow, according to
And
this.
I don't-
Because you can
I want
only,
you to
it's
be able to
only
do it,
exempt
Bud.
if it's operated during working hours.
And by scratching that working hours,
Well, I disagree
You can do
because it says the following activities are exemptions from the application of the article.
that's
Okay.
The
right.
whole article is the noise ordinance.
No, I
So
understand
all of
that.
these things are exempt from the noise ordinance. period.
I understand that, but the exemption is the non-commercial lawnmowers and agricultural equipment operated in that working hours is that's the catch.
Yeah.
Which is Monday through Friday,
Monday.
7:30 to 6.
Yeah. If you
Yeah.
take that out, then
During
you,
that time, but if you're running it after that
Well,
time.
strike working hours.
yeah, if you strike that, then you can go on a Saturday and mow your yard. It's exempt right there.
And I can still mow my yard, oh, well, but,
And burn your leaves.
Just not right now.
No.
and I don't make any noise.
I think we should ask Mike.
Well, like I said, I'd caught this 30 minutes before. I would love for everybody to look at it. There may be different interpretation. I could be wrong. And of course, we can have our attorney review it and see what his interpretation of it is as well. Would probably be the best idea.
Okay. All right.
I just had caught it and I wanted to bring it to y'all's attention because I had saw it as a potential problem.
Yeah, but that's not why this was originally.
No, it
on
wasn't.
the-
I just,
On the work schedule here.
yeah, this was just caught, but whenever I printed this out for y'all and was looking at it.
So the complaints is why you originally brought it up, right?
In my observation of noise during the weekend, that's just constant. Yes, indeed.
Oh, I don't disagree. It's basically the leaf blowers, but what I'm saying is.
They seem to be able to generate, when in tandem with 3 or 4 going at one time, a tremendous amount of noise
Well, I'd
that
outlaw-
reverberates through this whole town.
I would outlaw them anyway, because all it do is blow it into our ditches, which is illegal. They
You just
do.
need to catch them.
Well,
and
I've
find
been
them.
noticing,
spot.
I heard your concern about that at this last workshop. I would not deny that that does happen, but I've also noticed there's some landscapers that will pile them up and then they have a big truck with a vacuum and haul them off or put them in place.
Yeah, but I've seen them blow them right across Sixth Street into the ditch,
Yeah.
or Chestnut into the ditch.
Now, this isn't a question about construction, but Mayor, I had a situation when a party, 1 o'clock in the morning, and woke us up. And Sissy said, in her opinion, if the noise is so loud that it's waking people up after 10, then that's a violation. And the police officer at the time just went over and said, you can be quiet, or if I come back, it's $500 a person. I don't care. And he left. And I think that's good judgment. You know, if you're waking people up, then at 1 o'clock in the morning, then they ought to stop.
So I guess my question is, you brought it up, what was it that you wanted to have changed that we can't, that there's no commercial leaf blowing on the weekends?
Yes, or commercial landscape operations, just like a
Isn't it
construction
that already
operation.
in here?
Huh? Right now, you cannot do commercial operations like heavy equipment, and it says landscaping. And really, I didn't realize that was.
Yeah, I believe it
in
is
there.
addressed, but I think what we've caught is that you can't do it commercial or
Right,
not.
but
Yeah.
that's, you caught that, okay?
Okay.
But originally, I thought we had it already addressed all that stuff.
Yeah, and I haven't done a deep dive through it, but yeah, I mean, I hadn't read every single exemption, but I'm sure it doesn't say that you can operate a commercial construction or any type of leaf blowers, anything like that.
Can we tell them that it can only be electric ones, battery operated? They don't make nearly as much noise or as pollution.
And then we're not California.
Not California.
I think we could require mufflers if they don't have them on there. And there are some new $32 mufflers you can put on a gas-powered leaf blower that will reduce the noise level to some degree. I don't know how many landscapers are using them now, but.
Well, I think we should put an exemption in drought
Okay.
conditions.
Okay, as we are moving, why don't we ask the staff and the lawyers to review this in detail and get back with us on these contradictory parts? Okay, all right, very good. Now, the next workshop item that we have is bill policy for water breakage. Commissioner Dotson, would you like to kind of give us an overview of your concern on that issue?
Well, we're in the middle of a water shortage. We're coming up on winter. We've had instances in the past where folks will and, granted, I think it's primarily a seasonal resident issue and not someone that's in a house, because people that are in a house tend to find a broken pipe pretty quick. We've had a policy over the years to, when this happens, to forgive half of the water bill.
Right.
No matter what it is. And I think we should revisit that policy, therefore encouraging folks to be more diligent in their winterizing of homes. Especially since we're in a water shortage.
Okay.
Or if this water shortage continues into December or January, we have a hard freeze. We're already out of water. We're going to give people 10,000 gallons worth of water for free, 50,000, whatever the half is. I mean, to me, we're giving away, we're having to manufacture and pay for this product to start with, no matter what. So we're saying, okay, we're sorry, pat them on the head. You guys didn't do a good job. Should have called a plumber, but we're gonna give you a break. And I think we need to rethink that.
Incentivize them to do it right.
Incentivize them to do it right. Exactly. And I think that the town could certainly put out some kind of notice in with our power bills. I know that we can probably, with the help of the town attorney, whip up some suggested things to do. If you're going to do it, I mean, number one, you need to contact a licensed plumber so it has somebody to fall back on. But number two, if you're going to do it yourself, at least do X, Y, and Z. And a lot of people think, well, I'm going to disconnect, I'm going to leave the water dripping, but I'm going to turn the power.
Part of our system is tell them find that ahead of time too.
Do what?
Part of the new system. Water.
Yeah. If and when we get it though, but as I understand, we're still a couple of years away from having that.
But as I was looking at the policy, when you mentioned you wanted to put it on the agenda, and it's in our fee schedule, down at the bottom of the water section. Now I'll read it. It is the policy of the town of Highlands, in the event of a water leak on the customer side of the meter, to adjust the water portion of the bill 50% less the minimum charge. Such adjustment will be made only one time in any given 12-month period.
Right.
I think we could continue on, and that's add another sentence, unless it's in a water shortage declaration. And you could remove that, it's, that 50% would be off the table. That's one way of doing it. And then just to make y'all aware, we're at level 2 water shortage right now, which is mandatory this, mandatory that, cutting back a certain percentage. If we go to level 3, and we might, if it continues, the bill goes up, what is it, Josh, to 20%?
Yeah, there's a surcharge.
In addition to your charge you got now for water, it'll go up an additional 20% automatically. So I just wanted you to be aware there's some incentive already there in the water shortage, but you could make it more incentive just in your fee schedule. That if we're under a water shortage, that 50% adjustments off the table.
Just, I agree with that. I think that would probably be a good fallback position, but I also think people that are sitting in Key West on January the 12th don't really care. I mean, they care after the damage is done, but they've left their house at 45 degrees and the water dripping, and they have no concept of the power going off.
But I know at one time, the only way the town would adjust it, Josh, I don't know what's being done right now, but the only way you could get to 50% is if you turned in a plumber bill where there was actually a repair made.
That's the
think
way it
that's
is now.
still-
So we don't issue the 50% until the plumber bill has come in proving that they fixed the leak. And that's once a year.
I think Buzz has a good idea, though. If water is a very valuable resource. And as we get more people, and frankly, that's one of the things I think we need to talk about is our levels and how we determine where the levels are. Because the weir on Big Creek is not where we get our water anymore. We get it out of Sequoia. And Sequoia has changed a lot. So I think that's a different agenda item to talk about because a lot has changed. Mainly because we bypass everything with our sewer system, so it doesn't go to Sequoia anymore. But anyway, but I think it's not unreasonable. It's not unreasonable to not have the policy be that you get 50%. You only get 50% if for some unknown reason otherwise it's a policy. In other words, the exemption should be you don't have to pay but 50% of it, not you don't have to pay it. In other words, 50% should not be the standard. It should be everybody pays the whole thing unless for some reason you have a hardship case.
Who's to determine hardship?
I don't know. You have to determine what the hardship is. I mean, I don't want to make it so rigid that people have their water turned off.
Well, I think,
or they make a payment schedule. I mean, water is a very valuable commodity now. Wars are going to be fought over water. We ought to do everything we can to make sure that people up front try and make sure those things don't happen.
I've known it happen not in freezing conditions too, where just a pipe fails. We have it in our own water lines.
Oh, my
Pipes fail.
My
it's not an incentive, winter time's coming, you should drain your house correctly, this, that, and the other. It does happen, and I've known it, even we get checked a lot and stuff, and it just.
Water heater bottom rusted out.
Yeah, exactly. So it does happen, and it's not a negligence every time. It is shit happens sometimes.
and that may be your
and that's
exemption.
Where,
But if it is something like a pipe that you didn't drain correctly,
yeah,
or have.
it's not a blanket.
But what I'm saying is it should be the standard is you pay the full thing. You only get that 50% off if there are extenuating circumstances.
Those circumstances would have to be defined very clearly because staff is the one that gets chewed out when we have a leak and they freak out because they have the leak and it's $3,000 and they want, a reduction. And we explain, okay, you've not had one in a year. You need to have a plumber fix the pipe and bring the receipt in, and they get half of that. I do know some places don't issue any recovery on those bills because they've taken grants from certain entities that won't allow that. So there's a lot of places that don't give any recovery for those bills with those leaks. So that's something to think about as well if you're going one direction rather than we give some to these people, give some to these people. And how do you know somebody didn't have pipes freeze that were there all the time that didn't leave to have them winterized? Like last December, it was so brutal that a lot of people's froze and they were there.
Running the heat.
They didn't want to winterize their house with them there.
but once the pipes break on the inside, if you're there, chances are 99.9% you're going to know it.
You're going to turn it off
And you turn it off. And my thought process is if you have a failure in a house that has been left, you should have shut it off at the street. That's the number one stopgap. That's the firewall. Shut it off at the street. And you can winterize your house if you want to, as far as I'm concerned, because once it's shut off the street, it's your problem.
Yeah, but people shouldn't touch the valves at the street.
That's-
People should not, homeowners are not permitted to touch the valves at the street.
We talk
But
about it, I
plumbers
do it all
are.
the time.
Plumbers
You're not
or
allowed-
the town
you're
or
not
plumbers
supposed
can do that.
But that's why.
You're supposed to have a cutoff in between
Yeah.
in your house.
Oh, well, my house is really old.
Well, this was an item that, was added to the agenda. I think we need to, I know we're putting a lot on staff and our attorney, but we need to review that policy, see what other towns do, and see if there's some things that can be done to address Commissioner Dotson's concerns about.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but I mean, you're leaving, you should turn it off. That's the source.
Yeah, I mean, even if I go away for the weekend, regrettably, I've been the recipient of numerous failures, from washing machine lines that have failed and hot water heaters and that sort of thing. You come home and you got 4 inches of water in your basement and it's still warm. It makes you think. And I know a lot of, being in real estate, I know a lot of folks that just think, okay, I'm going to leave the water, and they call us all the time. Well, what should we leave our heat on? What do you think's good so the pipes won't freeze? And I just tell them, nothing's good, because unless you've got a generator with an unlimited supply of juice of whatever kind to it, once the power goes out, all bets are off.
And I know what you're driving at. Incentivize people to, if you don't
do
have
the
a
right
system
thing.
where you can
Yeah.
cut it off at just past the meter, or just as it comes into your house, maybe that's something that you need to do to ensure that you don't have.
Because
those
I had so many
leakages
problems,
over
I
the
actually
winter.
put a shut-off valve right outside the house.
Yeah.
In the line. So I just go out and shut the whole blessed thing off.
Well, at our house, we replaced aging copper pipes a few years ago that were leaking. They were
Pinholes.
Yeah. So we replaced it with PEX, and the plumber, just as you come into our basement, there is a shut-off valve with the drain for the whole house.
So,
Those are the kind of systems people need if you're going to be going away for the winter for.
so what happens between the valve at the street or the town's valve and your shut-off valve if it breaks there?
You're
I'm
responsible for it.
And hopefully it's buried deep enough that it will not freeze.
But if the
And
pipe
it's 24
fails,
inches.
It's not gonna happen around here. That's what happened.
Well, if it's gonna freeze between the town shut off and my house, it was probably gonna freeze anyway.
Yeah.
If I'm not there. Because everything else is shut off in the house. So, I mean, if somebody goes back to West Palm and shuts off everything.
Right. But what I'm saying is you've done everything that you could do because you're not supposed to touch the town's valve.
Right.
Okay, but it's still bus beyond the meter.
you're responsible.
You're responsible. Because the town or a plumber can shut that thing off at the meter. And we don't have to have the town crew go out and shut everybody's water off. I mean, it needs to be the responsibility of the homeowner to call a licensed plumber to come to the job. And I'm sorry if it costs $50.
Or you can get one to come.
Yeah.
Or you can get one to come.
I've been calling for 2
Okay,
days.
we'll have the staff, Lamar, Josh, our attorney, review this and come back with some recommendations to address this issue that has been brought up. But we are about 3 minutes from 7 o'clock with the town board meeting. Before I move for adjournment, the mayor's feeling is that in the December meeting, which is usually short, and we have the swearing in ceremony, that I think that we could forego a workshop session in December and resume such things at a later date, if everybody's in agreement. Okay. I'm just saying, we'll just skip that. that workshop for December. Okay. Any further comments before I move for an adjournment? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second, all in favor? We're adjourned. Thank you.